Listen to me very carefully, because what is unfolding at the Supreme Court of the United States right now is not a civics lesson, it is not a Twitter argument, and it is not another piece of political theater for you to consume passively between dinner and bedtime. What is happening right now is an institutional confidence crisis of historic proportions, and institutional confidence crises do not stay in the courtroom. They move into the economy. They move into the bond market. They move into the equity markets. They move into the real estate financing environment. They move into every single corner of the financial system that depends on the stability of the legal framework underneath it. And that means they move directly into your portfolio, whether you are paying attention or not. Public trust in the Supreme Court has collapsed to levels not seen in modern American history. Members of Congress are openly calling for ethics reform, structural changes, and in some cases, removal of sitting justices. The word impeachment is being used in committee hearings, in press conferences, and in legislation introduced on the floor of the United States Senate. This is not normal. This is a financial warning signal wrapped inside a political headline, and most Americans are reading the headline and missing the warning entirely. Stop scrolling. Sit down. What I am about to tell you in the next 30 minutes could be the most financially important 30 minutes of your entire year. Before I go one word further, I'm going to ask you to do something that will cost you exactly $0 and return you thousands in value over the life of this channel. Subscribe right now. Hit the notification bell. Do it before you talk yourself out of it, because that hesitation you feel, that little voice saying you will do it later, is the exact same voice that has kept you broke your entire financial life. The briefing I am about to deliver is the category of intelligence that private wealth managers charge $5,000 per session to provide to their clients. You are receiving it free. The subscribe button is the only price. Pay it and let us get to work on your money. Here's the reality of what is happening at the Supreme Court right now, delivered to you without political bias and without emotional coloring, because I do not care about your politics and I do not care about your feelings. I care about your money, and your money is directly affected by what I am about to explain. The Supreme Court of the United States is experiencing a legitimacy crisis that has been building for years and has now reached a boiling point that serious institutional investors are actively pricing into their risk models. Public approval of the Supreme Court has fallen to approximately 40% or below in multiple major polling surveys conducted over the past 2 years, representing some of the lowest confidence readings in the modern polling era. This is not a partisan observation. This is a documented, measurable collapse in the institutional trust that underpins the entire legal framework of the American economy. When Americans stop trusting the court, they stop trusting the finality of legal decisions. When they stop trusting the finality of legal decisions, the regulatory certainty that businesses depend on to make long-term capital investments begins to erode. When regulatory certainty erodes, capital becomes cautious. Cautious capital pulls back from long-duration investments, from expansion projects, from hiring, and from the kind of forward-looking economic activity that drives equity valuations upward. Members of Congress from both parties have introduced legislation targeting the court's ethics rules, its recusal standards, and its structural composition. Senate Judiciary Committee hearings have featured direct, on-the-record calls for accountability measures that would represent the most significant challenge to judicial independence in generations. These are not fringe voices. These are committee chairpeople, senior senators, and in some cases, presidential candidates using the word impeachment in official legislative contexts. Every single one of those statements is a data point in the institutional risk calculation that sophisticated investors are running right now. The question is whether you are running that calculation or whether you are watching the news and feelings about it, which will make you exactly $0 and cost you every opportunity hiding inside this crisis. The numbers do not lie, and the numbers around institutional uncertainty are some of the most consistent and actionable numbers in the entire history of financial markets. Let me give you the framework, and then let me give you the specific data. Points that should be driving your portfolio decisions right now. When institutional uncertainty spikes in America, And I mean real, structural uncertainty about the functioning of foundational government bodies, not routine political disagreement. The CBOE Volatility Index, which most investors know as the VIX, responds. The VIX is not a feelings gauge. It is a mathematical measurement of the market's expectation of near-term volatility, derived from options pricing on the S&P 500. When the VIX rises, it means the smartest, most capitalized participants in the market are paying real money to hedge against real uncertainty. During periods of significant Supreme Court controversy in recent history, including the contested confirmation battles of 2018 and the Dobbs decision aftermath of 2022, equity market volatility measurably increased in the weeks surrounding peak controversy. The Dobbs decision alone in June 2022, which overturned Roe v. Wade, produced immediate, sector-specific market reactions. Healthcare stocks, pharmaceutical companies, and legal services firms all moved within hours of the ruling. That was a single decision by a court that still retained its basic institutional legitimacy in the eyes of markets. What happens when the court itself becomes the controversy? When the institution rather than a single ruling is the source of uncertainty, capital gets defensive. Money rotates out of growth equities and into defensive sectors, utilities, consumer staples, gold, treasury instruments, and volatility products. The historical pattern is consistent enough that it constitutes a tradable thesis. And right now, that thesis is sitting in front of you, fully formed, fully documented, and almost entirely ignored by the retail investor community that is too busy arguing about the politics to notice the money moving underneath the argument. You are broke and you do not even know it. And I am going to prove it to you right now, using nothing but the financial reality of your own life. I do not care about your feelings. I care about your money. And your money is telling me a story about the decisions you have been making for years that explains exactly why you are watching a YouTube video about financial strategy instead of sitting on a portfolio that makes these decisions irrelevant. The median American household net worth, when you strip out home equity, which is an illiquid asset most people cannot access without selling the roof over their head, is shockingly, embarrassingly low relative to what it needs to be to provide actual financial security. The average American carries thousands of dollars in high-interest consumer debt while simultaneously holding cash in savings accounts that yield less than the real rate of inflation, meaning they are mathematically losing money every single month while believing they are being responsible. They are not being responsible. They are being financially passive, which in an inflationary environment with rising institutional uncertainty is functionally identical to being reckless. And now, while one of the most clearly signaled periods of market volatility and sector rotation in recent memory is unfolding in real time, driven by a Supreme Court legitimacy crisis that every major institutional investor is actively discussing in risk committee meetings, the average American is consuming the news as entertainment. They are picking a political side, they are posting opinions, they are doing everything except the one thing that would actually change their financial situation, which is treating the information as a catalyst and building a position around it. Stop being a victim of your own distraction. The crisis is real. The financial implications are real. The window to act intelligently before the crowd reacts emotionally is open right now, and it will not stay open. Every day you spend consuming this story instead of profiting from it is a day the smart money gets further ahead of you and a day you fall further behind. Now, I want to give you the counterintuitive layer of this analysis because this is where the genuinely sophisticated investor operates. And this is the territory that the financial media absolutely will not walk you through because it requires them to treat a political crisis as a financial instrument, which makes their lawyers nervous and their advertisers uncomfortable. I have no such constraints. When institutions shake, specific asset classes and sectors do not just survive, they thrive. And they thrive in ways that are mathematically predictable if you know where to look. The first counterintuitive play is volatility itself as an asset class. The VIX is not just a fear gauge to watch passively through ETFs and option structures Sophisticated investors can take direct positions in expected volatility, meaning they profit when uncertainty increases regardless of which direction the market moves. When a Supreme Court crisis deepens, when more congressional calls for reform hit the news cycle, when additional ethics controversies surface, when the institutional story gets louder, volatility expectations rise, and position investors collect. The second counterintuitive play is the legal and compliance services sector. Every time the legal landscape becomes more uncertain, every time the finality of Supreme Court decisions is questioned, every time businesses face an environment where the rules of the game might change, the demand for legal counsel, regulatory strategy, consulting, and compliance infrastructure accelerates. Law firms, legal technology companies, and regulatory consulting businesses see their pipelines grow during exactly these periods of institutional uncertainty. The third counterintuitive play is gold and commodity-linked assets. Gold has a centuries-long track record as the asset of last resort when institutional confidence collapses. It does not pay a dividend. It does not generate earnings. What it does is hold value when the systems that denominate all other value come under question, and a Supreme Court legitimacy crisis is precisely the category of systemic stress that historically drives capital toward gold. Winners do not just protect themselves from the crisis. Winners identify every dimension of the crisis that generates a return and position themselves across all of them simultaneously. Let me give you the exact mathematical framework that winners are executing right now. Because everything I have said up to this point is set up, and this section is the delivery. Strategy without specificity is motivational content. I did not bring you here for motivation. I brought you here for a plan that you can execute with a brokerage account and a calendar. The first move is volatility positioning. If your brokerage account supports it, research the ProShares VIX short-term futures ETF and comparable volatility-linked instruments. Understand how they work. Understand their decay characteristics in low volatility environments, and size your position appropriately as a hedge rather than a speculation. A 5 to 10% portfolio allocation to volatility protection during a period of elevated institutional uncertainty is not aggressive. It is rational risk management. The second move is defensive sector rotation. Consumer staples companies, the businesses that sell food, household products, and essential goods, have a documented history of outperforming the broader market during periods of political and institutional uncertainty. Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, Costco, these are not exciting investments. They are not going to make you rich overnight. What they are going to do is hold value while growth equities reprice downward in response to uncertainty, and in a defensive rotation trade, not losing is winning. The third move is gold allocation, a 10 to 15% allocation to gold or gold equivalent instruments, physical, gold ETFs, gold mining company equities, or direct bullion if your situation supports it, provides genuine portfolio insurance against the category of institutional stress currently unfolding. The fourth move is the one that almost nobody takes, and it is the most powerful move available to a retail investor in this environment. Reduce your consumer debt load aggressively. Right now, every dollar of high-interest debt you carry is a lack of guaranteed negative return on that capital. In an uncertain market environment, eliminating guaranteed losses is mathematically equivalent to generating guaranteed gains. And it is the one investment that requires no market timing, no brokerage account, and no special knowledge to execute perfectly. The numbers are clear, the plan is in front of you. The only variable is whether you are going to execute it or explain later why you did not. Here is where I leave you, and I want every single word of this closing to hit you with the full weight of the decision you're about to make, because this is the moment that separates every winner from every loser in the financial history of every market crisis that has ever unfolded. You have a binary choice. It is the same binary choice it has always been, and the same binary choice it will always be. You are going to be a winner, or you are going to be a loser. The winner leaves this video, opens their brokerage account today, reviews their portfolio exposure, identifies their defensive rotation opportunities, sizes a volatility hedge, reduces consumer debt with any available liquidity, and executes with the discipline of someone who understands that the window between signal and event is the only window that ever matters in investing. The loser closes this video, goes back to arguing about the Supreme Court on social media, forms a very strong political opinion about the institutional crisis, and wakes up 6 months from now in the exact same financial position they are in today, or worse. I cannot make this choice for you. I can only show you the math, show you the historical pattern, show you the exact instruments available to you, and then step back and let your habits decide. Your habits have been deciding your financial outcomes your entire life. Today is the day you decide to change them. Subscribe. Share this video with one person who needs to hear it. And go make your move, because the market does not wait for you to feel ready, and neither does history.